James West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Okay, brothers and sisters, what do you say? Here we go on a Wednesday, June 24. Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. We are here with you coast to coast on Free Speech TV. We are here with you worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. Good to see you on this Wednesday, June 24. And I got to tell you, man, I talked Monday about joining others, of course, Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney. We ought to take down the Confederate flag. And you talk about campaign that has now gone viral. Overwhelmingly, the South Carolina legislature voted to take up this debate before the end of the summer. That, of course, after Governor Nikki Haley and Senators Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott came out with all the rest of the South Carolina congressional delegation asking the legislature to take down the flag. And since then, in Virginia, in Maryland, in North Carolina, in Tennessee, lawmakers say they're going to take the flag off any state license plates. In Tennessee, they're talking about taking a statue of a former Confederate general and a member of the KKK out of the State House. In Mississippi, they're going to take the little Confederate flag off the corner of the Mississippi flag. Every trace of the Confederate flag will soon be gone. Why did it take so long? And meanwhile, President Obama preparing to go to Charleston, South Carolina on Friday for a very sad event. The funeral of Reverend Pinckney was also, of course, a South Carolina state senator. And the Senate votes today to give President Obama, they'll do it, to vote to give President Obama fast-track authority to make that Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal, which is a bad deal for American workers and American consumers. Give us a call about all the issues we're talking about at 866-55-PRESS. And we got a busy Wednesday. Good to have you on board.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
Should I put the water in there now?
Yeah, go ahead. This is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Help me. Your hands. Help me. Your hands. Back to
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94, there was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else.
Yeah.
That we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Day 19 now, and they're still looking for the escaped murderers up in New York State. What do you say, everybody? Great to see you on a Wednesday, June 24, 2015. Here we are. It is the Bill Press Show. How about it? On your local radio station, your local progressive talk radio station. Here with you, coast to coast, on Free Speech TV. Joining you coast to coast as well, and looking good. And worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV. Hello, hello, hello. Great to see you today. Thank you so much for being part of the program. And remember, you're only really part of the program if your voice is heard or your views are heard. And the way to do that is by giving us a call, 866-55-PRESS, toll-free number, or just sending us your comments, also toll-free, by the way, on Twitter or on Facebook. On Twitter, @BP Show, and Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Good to be back with you today after a quick trip up to New York City and back. A little jaunt on Morning Joe yesterday morning here. I felt like I was cheating, but we're back. And thanks to Jimmy Williams from Blue Nation Review for being here yesterday with the whole team, and I understand on a crackerjack job. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Nice to have you back, though.
Thank you, Peter Ungburn and Elisa Murphy. Good to see you guys.
Hey, Bill.
Good to have you back.
How about it? Jamie Benson's still here, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding on the job with the lights and cameras on for all of you out there on Free Speech TV land. And, I got to tell you, man, our Bernie Sanders, who announced he was going to run for president here on this show, he is making a hell of an impact and getting huge crowds everywhere you go. And you know that you are having an impact. You know you're getting a lot of buzz. You know you're getting a lot of media attention when the stand-up comics start imitating you, right? Isn't that the sign?
Yeah.
When the late-night comics start making cracks about you, which they have been, and then you even get the imitators. Like Bill Clinton, right? Everybody was doing the Bill Clinton voice, right? Okay. Well, now we got Bernie Sanders. This is the first one, probably, of many. This guy, he does a pretty good job, I think. His name is comedian. I never heard of stand-up comedian. James Adomian.
Oh, yeah. We've had him on the show.
No.
Yes, we have. He did a great Bush years and years ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's what he's known for.
He's hilarious. He's a genuinely really funny guy.
Okay, well, he's gone from Bush to Bernie.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
Hello, I'm Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from Vermont, and I'm running for president. Despite the fact that 80% of everyone agrees with me on 90% of everything, the corporate-controlled media says that I can't win because I look like a train conductor with cotton candy hair, and I sound like a bullfrog with the personality of a library card. In short, they say that I'm boring.
No.
Well, frankly, that's a whole load of bunk. Come on, I'll show you. Come on.
That's pretty money.
That's pretty good.
Isn't that pretty good? That's Bernie, man. I got to tell you.
That's funny.
Oh, Bernie. I'm feeling the burn, though.
Feel the burn.
Feeling the burn.
Feel the burn.
Yep, indeed.
Oh, God. That's great.
I want to get that bumper sticker, feeling the burn.
Feel the burn.
You know what? The other one I want to get is riding with Biden.
Oh,
Yeah, I
nice.
like that one.
Yeah,
Isn't
there
that a
you
good
go.
one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Riding with Biden.
And he's like riding in a Corvette or something in the picture with his sunglasses on.
Of course, with his aviator
Of course.
sunglasses. Yeah, no, absolutely. So anyhow, Bernie is out there, and I got to tell you, everywhere I turn, people tell me, I'm for Bernie.
Yeah.
I'm for Bernie.
Yeah, it's real.
He's picking up a lot of support.
It's real.
Hillary Clinton's way ahead in the polls, and if she's the nominee, she'll be great. She's the president, she'll be dynamite. Nothing against her. It's just it's fun to see Bernie out there get a little traction. Okay, we got lots and lots to talk about with lots of good people today. David Jackson joins us from the White House for USA Today, and then 2 Democratic members of Congress from New York. Congressman Paul Tonko and Congressman Jerry Nadler will both be along. And the flag, the Confederate battle flag, look at it quickly because pretty soon you're not going to see it anywhere. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. They have now installed and made it official the Oops button in Gmail, Bill. It's the undo button. So what happens is if you send an email and as soon as you hit send, you realize, oh no, I didn't mean to send this to that person.
Yeah.
You can hit undo, and it undoes that send to the person you were emailing. Now, they've had this in Google Labs for a couple of years. They hadn't rolled it out officially until yesterday, and it used to be 5 or 10 seconds that you could have after you hit send. Now you can go all the way up to 30 seconds after you send it. So if you send something and 20 seconds later you realize, oh no, I just sent the wrong thing to the wrong person, you could just click undo and it stops that email from going through to that person, and you could then fix it and correct who you want to send.
Well, you know, that's well and good, but you got to know it right away.
Well, like,
sometimes
I've been using this for some time now, and it's caught several emails. Like, if I have the wrong email address or if I catch a typo, as soon as I hit send, I'll catch it. I haven't caught everything.
Did they get rid of the notification? You know, like, do you see that you have an email and then now it's gone if someone was looking at their email that second?
Well, what it does is it's like in a holding pattern after you hit send.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't actually go out until you hit the 20 or 30 seconds that you've set it to hold. So you can then, it doesn't actually send it out.
Yeah. I don't know. It's still risky, man.
It's still risky.
I've gotten emails from people that were not supposed to come to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Embarrassing.
I think you've sent a couple, too.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Some sad news. We got confirmation that James Horner, the Oscar-winning composer who composed music for Titanic, among other big Hollywood movies, he died in a plane crash on Monday. They weren't sure if it was him or if they could confirm it. A plane had crashed that was registered under his name yesterday. It was confirmed.
He was flying himself?
Yeah. He was flying by himself. Just north of Santa Barbara is where he left. So sad news there. It was confirmed that he is the person that died in that plane crash. And Susanna Mushat is the world's oldest person. She is alive at 115 years old. She grew up in Alabama. She now lives in Brooklyn, New York. She was born July 6, 1899.
Oh.
She is one of only 2 people left.
She lived through the entire 20th century.
Yeah.
And is well into the 21st.
Into the 21st. She is one of only
3
2
centuries.
people in the world who was born in the 1800s. Of course, when someone lives to be that long, we have to find out.
Yes? What'd she say?
How do they live to be that long? She says no alcohol or smoking.
Forget it.
She eats mostly fruit all day, but she does eat grits, bacon, and eggs for breakfast. She enjoys naps, and she says she wears sexy lingerie.
Oh.
She's coming up on her 160th
lingerie
birthday.
good enough to make a 115-year-old sexy.
Sexy, no.
No.
I mean, like you could be like a bathrobe when you're 115.
Yeah.
That could be sexy.
No,
lingerie.
I don't want to know what she thinks is sexy.
All right, wait, before you hit the sounder, okay? I mean, I want to add to the full court today.
Hey, go ahead.
Oh, only if it's, I just think it fits in here. There's a trend.
Sure.
Back to the obituary, right? There's another sad moment here.
Oh, no.
I don't know whether you know. I wanted to just mention and regret the passing of Don Featherstone, who died at 79.
Who he?
Is that the flamingo guy?
Don Featherstone invented the pink flamingo.
The pink flamingo.
On the front lawns of America. He didn't invent the flamingo.
Sure.
He invented the pink flamingo. Isn't that great?
The more important flamingo, the plastic one on your lawn.
It has changed American landscape, right? It really has. What an impact.
Well, I mean, in trailer parks.
But here's what I find. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Here's what I find very clever is that the actual name, the Latin name of the flamingo, is Phenicopterus ruber. And he named the pink flamingo Phenicopterus ruber.
Oh, that is smart.
Isn't that great?
Oh, man.
All right, so Don Featherstone.
Trailer parks everywhere will fly their flags at half-mast.
We'll be in mourning today.
Yeah.
Oh, people, yeah. Yes, any trailer park today.
Yeah.
If you can't make it to Florida, you just get a flamingo and you put it in your lawn.
Yeah.
There you go.
We hardly knew you, man. You had such an impact on all our lives. We're gonna miss you, buddy.
There you go. Hey, I got to tell you, well, out yesterday, but boy, Monday, wow, who knew where this was going, right? Monday, we talked about the Confederate flag and how it was just time to take it down. Take it down. Just stop all this nonsense about the fact. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our history. We have to celebrate it. We have to recognize it, and it stands for freedom. It stands for courage. It stands for patriotism and all. No. We said Monday, take it down, echoing a tweet that came out Monday from Mitt Romney, and echoing what Jeb Bush said too. That what they did in Florida was take it down and put it in a museum. So we talked about that Monday, and we were lamenting the fact Monday that people like Lindsey Graham wouldn't take a stand. Marco Rubio said, we'll leave it up to the people of South Carolina. Wouldn't take a stand. Wishy-washy, just sick. Ted Cruz, same thing. Scott Walker, same thing. Bobby Jindal, same thing. It was only Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney really stood up. And we were talking about the governor of South Carolina, too. But, boy, did she kind of step up to the plate later that day. She came out and said, for sure, on Monday, with Lindsey Graham, with Tim Scott, with the
Reince Priebus was there?
Reince, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Reince
he
Priebus
was there.
Right? I saw the Argentinian Trail Congressman there. I say the whip was there.
Yeah.
And they were Republicans and Democrats all united, and they said, we call upon the legislature, the state legislature of the state of South Carolina to take the Confederate flag down once and for all from the Capitol grounds. And boy, so that was amazing enough, but that has been followed by just an outpouring of actions taken and calls for action from all around the country. It's much bigger than South Carolina now.
Yeah.
This is a nationwide movement. But starting in South Carolina, the legislature voted overwhelmingly to take up this issue and to debate it and resolve it before, and I think they're going to have to do the right thing, before the end of the summer. I'm just checking here. The vote was, here we go. Whoa. It was 103 to 10 in the House. And the Senate did it by voice vote. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, overwhelmingly, they said, yeah, we're going to deal with it. We're going to deal with it. Here's one South Carolina Senator, Marvin... Marlon Kimson.
We want this business to be dealt with before we leave session, and you, the people, are speaking.
He's talking to the crowd outside of the state capitol there. Yeah.
Making me homesick with
that,
those accents, man.
We won't.
Mauling.
Yeah. And
you
then
gonna deal with this?
Yeah. Kevin Johnson, also state senator.
The flag has been a symbol of divisiveness and hate and racism for a lot of people for far too long.
And out in near St. Louis, Hillary Clinton yesterday speaking to a group of supporters.
Recognizing it as a symbol of our nation's racist past that has no place in our present or our future. It shouldn't fly there. It shouldn't fly anywhere.
Shouldn't fly there, shouldn't fly anywhere. Meanwhile, again, looking at other states, in Virginia, Governor Terry McAuliffe said they're going to stop selling Virginia license plates with the Confederate flag. Stop making that offer. The governors also in Maryland, North Carolina, and Tennessee followed the lead of Virginia yesterday. No more Confederate flag on license plates. In Tennessee, State Senator, the head of the legislature down there, called for removing a statue of a Confederate general who was also a member of the KKK from the State House, inside the State House. In Mississippi, the head of the Republican head of the House has said, I didn't realize this. They have the little Confederate symbol or the Confederate battle flag up in the corner of the Mississippi state flag. Otherwise, it's kind of red, white, blue stripes. Now, he said they ought to take that off the Mississippi state flag forever, forever, forever. And what was really, really powerful yesterday is the retail stores across the board basically came out and said they're going to stop selling any products at all that have any sign of the Confederate battle flag on them, no matter what it is. And that included Amazon and Walmart and Sears and Target and I don't know who else. Plus, one flag maker, Valley Forge Flag, who's really, I think, one of the biggest flag makers in the country. They said they're no longer going to make the Confederate flag. So, yeah, it is soon going to be in the dust bin of history in the museum only. This thing has really taken off. It is sad. It is tragic that it took the murders of 9 people in the House of God in Charleston, South Carolina, to make that happen. But it looks like we're finally coming to our senses as a nation across the board, state, north, south, east, west, to get rid of the Confederate flag. Yeah.
And it's really taken
About
on.
Time.
It's taken on so much more than just the Confederate flag. It's this idea that we as a people, especially in the South, treat the Confederacy as some sort of legitimate cause. Right. You've got statues everywhere. We have streets named after Jefferson Davis here in the D.C. area. All of these things, when you talk about the legacy of the Confederacy, they treat them like war heroes in a lot of parts of the country.
Yep, no longer. So what do you think about this movement? 866-55-PRESS. What else ought to happen? What's happening where you live? 866-55-77-377. Let us know.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County is often portrayed as a role model for the rest of the country. The county has some of the highest salaries and most expensive real estate in America, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of tech companies such as Google, Yahoo, Intel, Adobe, and of course Apple, the nation's wealthiest and most profitable company. But Santa Clara County also has a more unseemly distinction. I'm standing near downtown San Jose, inside what is by some accounts the largest homeless encampment in America. The jungle, as it's known, occupies a 65-acre stretch of creek where about 300 people live in makeshift structures. It's less of a homeless encampment than a full-blown shantytown.
This being the largest homeless encampment in the United States, and with us having Silicon Valley with Steve Jobs and all this cash, we're not supposed to have this kind of homeless problem. You know what I mean?
I done been shot with a pellet gun like 4 times, attacked with baseball bats, my house set on fire.
This is like hell on earth. I mean, this is like something you will not see. You have to see to believe, actually. It's like fourth world conditions.
Hi, have you ever heard of a place called the Jungle? Sorry? A place called The Jungle. Have you heard of it?
We're not making enough money really for conventional homes or housing, and we make too much money for subsidized homes. So we're kind of, floating between the oil and the water.
We told the landlady here if it would be possible to continue staying here. She said, no, you got to go. I already rented it out. We went and loaded things into a storage facility, and it's still there. And all the campgrounds and things that we saw were too far out of the city, like KOAs and that sort of thing. So what we decided to do was to move into the jungle. So that's what we did.
A few days ago, a woman named Lydia Hernandez was robbed inside of her tent. When she refused to hand over the money, the robbers slit her throat. When she still fought back, they bashed her head with an axe. She died a few hours later. Residents say that the police never come into the jungle, so they have to fend for themselves.
There's no law down there except our own, right? There's no law, so we could smoke dope all day in the open. The dope dealers ain't scared because they're secure.
We go to the Fairmont Hotel and have a brunch or do a philanthropy. That's not going to cut it. We need billions of dollars to go into the inner cities and go into the jungle. Silicon Valley, the Bay Area is known for its innovation, its progressive thinking. It's one of the most progressive pockets in the United States, if not the world, and certainly one of the wealthiest. If we can't do it here, it won't happen anywhere. It's got to happen here.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour, let's jump quickly here to David down in Orange Beach, Alabama. Hey, David.
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
All right, what do you think about all this?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let us consider one thing that I don't think that anybody has. The Confederate flag is actually a foreign flag. It was flown by a foreign country that was fighting against America.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. I never thought of it that way. Or just another division of America that was fighting against the United States, huh?
Well, no. I mean, I would say, would we fly the Iranian flag?
No. I know. That's a good point, Peter. I don't know whether you've ever heard that argument that it was a foreign country. It really was one part of the United States trying to secede from the United States.
Yeah, I mean,
technically. But I do get his point. If it sense we would not fly in. I think his point he's making. We would not fly an enemy flag.
Right. Yeah,
in the United States. Good point. Hey, David, good to hear from you. More calls
Bill
coming
Press
up.
Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I can just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earthalujah.
'You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
"34 minutes after the hour." Get back to your calls here in just a second about just this national movement now to rid ourselves of every trace of the Confederate flag. Southern states, northern states, border states, all doing so. But just want you to be sure, I know this is a big day in American politics. Republican candidate number 13 jumps into the race for 2016. None other than Piyush, otherwise known as Bobby. Piyush Jindal, otherwise known as Bobby Jindal, governor of Louisiana. He's been, of course, wanting to do this for a long time. He makes it official today. He will be number 13. Needless to say, he has a long way to go. Most recent polls showed him at just 1% support among Republican voters. But in the it's even worse. In the most recent Fox News poll, Bobby Jindal was not just behind all the other candidates. He also ran behind none of the above. None of the above got 2%, and Bobby Jindal got 1%. So, but okay, water's fine. Welcome to the pool.
Wow.
Jump in.
What a horrible misreading of where people are.
So back on the topic we're talking about here in terms of how quickly this movement, once it was really once Mitt Romney and then Jeb Bush were the first. But then once Governor Nikki Haley from South Carolina came out and said, we got to get rid of this flag, everybody just said, all right, now's the time. And it was interesting to me because I wrote my column for The Hill Monday, which appeared on Tuesday, about we got to get rid of the flag. And not only that, have to take down the statue of Strom Thurmond and Ben Tillman from the grounds of the South Carolina Capitol. And the comments in response to the column were people saying, oh, look at this. This is just a Democrat attacking the Republicans. Again, partisan politics and the whole thing. But before the end of the day, the Republican governor of South Carolina had said, take it down. Two Republican senators from South Carolina had said, take it down. The Republican head of the House in Mississippi had said, we're going to take the Confederate flag symbol off the state Mississippi flag. So it's not just a Democratic versus Republican thing. Republicans leaders, to their credit, some of them at least, have been out in front on this. And also, when I said let's not just take down the flag, but get rid of the statue of racist Strom Thurmond and ultra-racist Ben Tillman, if you will, you think that might be going too far? In South Carolina, not in South Carolina, I'm sorry, too many papers here. In Kentucky. In Kentucky, the Republican nominee for governor has said they should remove the statue of Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy,
That's right,
from their state capitol house.
Yeah.
So it's almost like any trace of it. Get rid of it.
It's an interesting question, right? Because
you mentioned the Jefferson Davis Highway. You cross the river here from Washington, D.C., you're in Virginia, you're on the Jefferson Davis Highway.
Yeah, there's a lot of that around the country, not just in the South. It's obviously predominantly in the South. But there is a question of, the flag is a symbol to so many people. It means so many different things to so many different people, right? But then you think about the big picture of the Confederacy and the Confederate States and the Civil War and what that meant. And it means a lot of things to people who grew up in the South. Their ancestors fought in it.
Yeah.
They have family members who have passed along stories. And when you think about it, at its heart, it is a treasonous act against this country, the Confederacy. And I know it means so much that your family fought in that war for the wrong side, the losing side, but you just got to get over it. You've got to get over it, people. I mean, and I'm speaking to people I grew up with.
And,
get over it.
And all of that possible interpretations of the Confederate flag, I think, was destroyed once the photo came out of Dylan Roof in his jacket, proudly wearing the Rhodesian flag and the Confederate flag. And you know what it stood for him.
Yeah.
Bruce is down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Great town, Peter. We had a good time down there. Hey, Bruce, how you doing?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you this morning?
Good. Thank you
Bruce.
for your call. What's up?
I want to stick to make sure that everyone knows these are my opinions and my opinions alone.
Okay.
And a lot of people have different things.
Yes.
Here's the problem. My set, okay, as a black man, people can't see the forest because all those trees are in their way. That's what we have here with this flag. That flag does not represent anything. And I'll tell you why it doesn't bother me, because all the anger and everything, it's in the heart. No more than putting on a cross makes you a Christian. You can't bear that. That young man said, I wanted to start a race war. Well, everybody, please look around. He actually won. I mean, what is a war? It's an armed conflict among nations or groups. Are these people armed? Look at them. They're armed with the biggest weapon in the history of the world. Anger and hate has killed more people than any other weapon we've ever invented. In fact, it's the weapon that Cain used against Abel. And now we have all this going on with an argument over whether or not they're going to argue about whether or not they should take the flag down.
Well, I don't know that they're arguing now, Bruce. I think pretty much they've accepted they've got to take it down.
Well, they still got to have that assembly meet. The guy was talking about, we want to meet in December. We want to do this. We want to do that. There is the conflict. This is what I'm saying. But is the problem really in that flag, or is it within the hearts of the people that's doing that?
Yeah, but the problem, Bruce, I think you're overlooking something here, with all due respect, is that it's the flag that incites that hatred in some people, or at least makes them feel their hatred is legitimate, because all they're doing is continuing a tradition of the South in racial hatred.
I hear you 100%, but what I'm saying is that, in my opinion, I don't believe that. Because if you're going to hate me, you're going to hate me regardless of that flag. And the people that hate that flag, if someone is flying that flag on their car, and their car flips over into the water, and they need help, that flag is not going to stop me from going to help them.
Yeah. No, Bruce, I hear you. We don't disagree all that much. I mean, I grant your point. If you get rid of the flag, I could find some other reason to hate you. I could find something else. I could still hate you and you know, blame it on something else, right? But the flag is definitely a source of that, and definitely a symbol of that, and it is a good step to get rid of the flag. Will it get rid of all hatred? No. But it'll get rid of a major, long-standing symbol of racial hatred in this country, which is what it is. Rick out in Cincinnati. What do you say, Rick?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, just a simple question I'd like to pose to
All right.
anybody who's neutral on this. Name a flag that represents racial purity and superiority, that represents oppression and enslavement of minorities, including concentration camps, and a very militaristic, nationalistic culture.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. And, you know, you can't fly it in Germany, by the way.
You can't fly it in Germany.
Cannot display it in
The people
Germany.
of Germany, Japan, and Italy had to deal with this issue immediately. Why has it taken the South 150 years?
Very, very good point, Rick. Yeah, major point. Right. All right, we'll take one more quick one before we go from Lawrence out in Waco, Texas. Hello, Lawrence.
Hey, good morning, Bill. Great show.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to make a comment about, while taking down the flag is definitely a step in the right direction, and that's all great, but that needs to be followed with steps towards justice, because the way that I see it, that this issue is more than just a black issue or a slavery issue.
Yeah.
It's an issue about the assault of rich on poor people, whether they're black, white, brown, Native Americans, and like the lady governor that's up there tooting her own horn is all she's doing. She's voted against. She's against every policy or legislation that would help poor people in any way, like Medicaid or fair pay wages or any of those kinds of things. And I just wanted to hear what you think about that.
I think you are absolutely right. No, you've got to see it in context, right? And it's a good thing to take the flag down, but that still means then maybe we address the underlying issues. And you could add to your list. It's not. It's the plight of the poor in this country. The fact that this income inequality. It's still the fact that there are too many young black kids out of jobs. There's too many unemployed black men across the board. There are too many in prison. You still got the question of police brutality, particularly aimed against people of color, on and on and on. And let's get to that business as soon as we get rid of the flag. You got it. Hey, great calls, folks. David Jackson is standing by. We'll get back to this issue a little bit later in the program. David Jackson standing by at the White House, coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes now before the top of the hour. Down at the White House, on the job for USA Today, as always, David Jackson joins us here on our newsline this morning. Hello, David.
Hello, Bill. You know, 24 hours ago, I didn't think anything was going on, and now it seems like everything's going on.
Boy,
Right?
it seems to know you're so right. And I must admit, a little John up to New York and back Monday and Tuesday. I missed the last two briefings, but I didn't worry. I knew you were in charge. You were there, David.
We got hostage policy.
I know.
We're spying on French presidents. We got big Supreme Court decisions coming up, and
all of which I want to ask you about.
Exactly.
And the president heading for Charleston on Friday.
Going to be a major speech on Friday.
All right, guys. Where do we start? First, let's start with trade. You didn't mention that, right?
Trade.
President Obama's going to get it today, right? Looks like.
I think so. I vividly remember a couple of weeks ago when the House had that vote, and everyone was saying his policy was trade, but I wasn't so sure, and a lot of people in the White House were still fairly confident they would find a way to pull it out.
They were exuding confidence that they would find a path, as Josh kept saying.
Well, exactly, because the House did approve fast-track authority. It's trade assistance that they rejected, which seems kind of strange, and a lot of people felt like they could use that to re-energize their trade agenda, and it looks like that's the way it's going to go down.
Yeah, so the Senate voted yesterday to the procedural vote cloture. They got 60 votes. That's all they needed. They need 51 votes today.
Right. That cloture despite Ted Cruz, by the way, who turned against the free trade agreement, which is kind of an interesting political story. But
Right. Yeah, he flipped. So we'll get that. And then on the hostage, I'm sorry, not the spying, WikiLeaks, and by the way, with all their leaks, they haven't been proven wrong yet, right?
No.
This one shows that we've been spying on the last 3 French presidents?
At least the last 3 French presidents. Yeah, that document's going back to Chirac. Well, the Bush and Chirac relationship wasn't great, so it doesn't shock me at all that they were interested in what he was up to. And apparently, at least through new documents produced by WikiLeaks, show that at least between 2006 and 2012, we spied on the 3 French presidents that were in.
Well, does that mean we were listening in on their cell phones like Angela Merkel?
Unclear, but I think that's the implication. They certainly talked to a lot of aides. They were certainly listening on the phone calls of some aides of some top presidents. Because a lot of it's more economic in nature. They were interested in France's economic position, especially vis-a-vis the European Union. Yeah. And another thing that's kind of funny, Bill, is that one of the things that these documents reveal, they were trying to find out what the French presidents were going to talk about at their meetings with U.S. presidents. And in one of the meetings, Sarkozy was going to complain about U.S. spying on the French.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, man.
So I think France knows this has been going on. It's now public, and it's a big to-do in France.
Now, the president today is expected to announce, it's been leaked, a new policy related to paying ransom.
Exactly. Well, the federal government still won't be paying ransoms. They will allow families to raise money for ransoms if they're in a position to do so. That's the big change here. And they're going to create a new office that's going to work with the families of these hostages, and presumably some of that work may involve fundraising. We don't know. But
so before this, if a some of the families were warned, right?
Exactly.
If you do this, you'll face federal charges.
Right. Apparently, it's certainly handled poorly in terms of personal relations, but families have been trying to raise money for hostages for years and have been actually threatened by federal officials with prosecution if they went ahead and pursued that. So the government's basically trying to clean that up, and now they're basically going to turn a blind eye to families that want to raise money to try to get their loved ones back.
Right. And I know you're going to Charleston on Friday. The president's going down. He'll be speaking at the memorial service for Reverend Pinckney, the state senator there, who was murdered with 8 other churchgoers at last Thursday in Charleston. Yeah, David, I was thinking this morning, I mean, one role of the president these days more and more is like the mourner in chief.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going back to President Reagan, with the astronauts, President Clinton with Oklahoma City, right? President Bush with September 11, I'll never forget it, at the National Cathedral, and President Obama after Sandy Hook, and others, and Newtown, yeah, right, and now Charleston.
It is a sad duty, and it's just part of the society. People look to presidents in times of crisis and look to the presidents for comfort. And in this particular case, it's overlaid by the fact that it was a racist murder, a hate crime. Yep. And this is the first African-American president, so there's an awful lot going on with this one.
He knew him.
And he knew him, yeah. So did Vice President Biden. Both President Obama and Vice President Biden and their wives will all be at that ceremony. So it's going to, and John Boehner and Congressional delegation. So it's going to be very tight security down there on top of everything else.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big deal.
Is it going to be held, that first AME?
That was my understanding. But, the last I checked, the logistics are still being worked out, including the time. We don't even know exactly what the time is. I know they want to do it in the church, but there's going to be such a crowd, and there's such a security concern. I think that they were thinking about moving it.
That's not a huge church.
No, not at all. Not at all. And while it's a funeral, it's Senator Pinckney's funeral, and this is the eulogy. The speech is also going to be about the other 8 victims.
I'm sure, right? Yeah.
But I think they're going to do it at the church, and I assume there'll be overflow situations for the crowd.
As a South Carolinian, did you ever think you'd see such a movement so fast to get rid of every trace of the Confederate flag?
No, not at the speed anyway.
Yeah.
I think that for years it's been a lot of increasing concern about the flag, and you've heard more and more voices out of South Carolina say, hey, we should do something. Like the football coach, Steve Spurrier, is a classic example. He was on this case in 2007 complaining about it, and the Clemson football coaches also expressed concern about it in terms of recruiting and things of that nature. They don't think it sends the right message. So
that'll finally get
You've heard a lot of voices go, but this incident obviously galvanized those voices, and with social media and the way things go today, the speed of it has been incredible.
All right, boy, we covered a lot of territory there. We got to run along. David Jackson, I'll see you later today. I'll be there today. All right,
thanks, Bill.
Thanks. That's a briefing.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Okay, lots more coming up here on this Wednesday edition of the Bill Press Show. We're going to check in with CODEPINK at the top of the next hour. Later joined by two congressmen from New York, Paul Tonko from the 20th and Jerry Nadler from New York's 10th. All part of today's Bill Press Show. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Okay, brothers and sisters, what do you say? Here we go on a Wednesday, June 24. Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. We are here with you coast to coast on Free Speech TV. We are here with you worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. Good to see you on this Wednesday, June 24. And I got to tell you, man, I talked Monday about joining others, of course, Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney. We ought to take down the Confederate flag. And you talk about campaign that has now gone viral. Overwhelmingly, the South Carolina legislature voted to take up this debate before the end of the summer. That, of course, after Governor Nikki Haley and Senators Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott came out with all the rest of the South Carolina congressional delegation asking the legislature to take down the flag. And since then, in Virginia, in Maryland, in North Carolina, in Tennessee, lawmakers say they're going to take the flag off any state license plates. In Tennessee, they're talking about taking a statue of a former Confederate general and a member of the KKK out of the State House. In Mississippi, they're going to take the little Confederate flag off the corner of the Mississippi flag. Every trace of the Confederate flag will soon be gone. Why did it take so long? And meanwhile, President Obama preparing to go to Charleston, South Carolina on Friday for a very sad event, the funeral of Reverend Pinckney, who was also, of course, a South Carolina state senator. And the Senate votes today to give President Obama, they'll do it, to vote to give President Obama fast-track authority to make that Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal, which is a bad deal for American workers and American consumers. Give us a call about all the issues we're talking about at 866-55-PRESS, and we got a busy Wednesday. Good to have you on board.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness.
My beauty.
My power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Day 19, yes, 19 days, and they're still looking for those escaped convicts up in New York State. And every time they think they've got a hot lead in one place, they find another one 300 and some miles away. Hey, hello, everybody. Great to see you. Welcome to The Bill Press Show this Wednesday, June 24. How about it? We are live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. We're on Capitol Hill, right in the heart of the action, and our studio just down the street from the United States Capitol building. Booming out to you coast to coast on your local progressive talk radio station, and also booming out to you coast to coast on Free Speech TV. We thank you for being with us this Wednesday. And look forward to hearing from you and what you think about the issues of the day. There's a lot going on. As David Jackson just told us from the White House yesterday, you know, it seemed like a sleepy summer, and then suddenly things really started popping. Nothing popping faster than moves in state after state after state, to eradicate any lingering trace of the Confederate flag or of the Confederacy. It seems like, which is a great move. You know how to join us, 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number, or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. We have the whole team here in place this morning, led by Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Here we go.
Here we are.
Thank you.
Good on a Wednesday.
Yeah, on Wednesday. And, you know, I played a little hooky yesterday. For a quick trip up to New York, but want to thank Jimmy Williams from Blue Nation Review for Blue State Review.
Blue Nation Review.
Blue Nation.
No, Blue Nation.
You got it. You had it
first time. For filling in yesterday. Jamie Benson is on the phones, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS again, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Cyprian on the job as well. And we welcome to the show. You've heard us, you've met Medea Benjamin from CODEPINK many times here on the show. Her right-hand person on the job does Medea's, I guess she's the activist and the firecracker and maybe the inspiration, and the person who gets the job done and keeps the organization running is here with us. Alli McCracken is the national organizer for CODEPINK. Alli, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
How do you keep up with Medea?
We kind of feed off of each other's energy.
Do you?
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
She's great to work with.
Boy, I'll tell you, keeping up with her.
She's a wildcat.
24-hour job.
Yeah.
By the way, little breaking news on the political front. Just have to point this out, that the latest poll is out for New Hampshire in the Republican primary. We know in the Democratic primary, it showed Hillary Clinton 51, Bernie Sanders 41.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's really impressed with how Bernie's really making a lot of progress.
Feel the burn.
Feel the burn.
Bill.
Feel the burn. That's it, burn. Thank you.
Bill.
And today, the poll is out on the Republican primary, and here's the big news. Jeb Bush is number one with 14%, and number two, Peter, is?
I'm going to guess Scott Walker, even though he's not.
Donald Trump.
Get out.
Yep, he's in at number two.
Number two at 11.
It's all horrible.
Holy crap.
This is bad news for the Republican Party, but this is the point. That's why they're not going to be able to keep him out of the debates.
Yeah.
Good news for comedians everywhere.
Yo, this is great news for us.
Great news for Democrats, great news for talk radio hosts, and for stand-up comics.
Please keep that up.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Just to show you how in touch with the average American Donald Trump is. There is a photo.
I can feel that.
He was in our area yesterday because he's got this great big golf course just across the river in Loudoun County, which is not that far.
Not that far.
Like your average American.
Exactly. Yeah, first of all.
Right.
Number one. And he has just done a $25 million renovation of the golf course that reopened yesterday. And he was there riding around the golf course in golf carts with photographers, showing off the course. And he steps up to the tee and hits a drive, wearing loafers, slacks, his jacket,
still with his blazer on,
still with his blazer on, buttoned, and a cap.
Yeah, big weird orange baseball cap.
Yeah, and hits a golf ball.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody hit a golf ball while wearing a
blazer.
dress coat, blazer like that.
No,
I've never seen that.
Buttoned.
Yeah, that's new. The formal golf.
Anyhow, so here he is, President Trump. Anyhow, going to start with Alli to find out the latest from CODEPINK. A little bit later, we'll be joined by two members of Congress, Congressman Paul Tonko from New York and Congressman Jerry Nadler from New York as well. But first, Peter with the big headlines.
Is the full court press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Some sad news, Bill.
Uh-oh.
Some very sad news.
No.
Fox News has dropped their contract with Sarah Palin.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. Isn't this terrible? They had a contract with Sarah Palin, and they had a chance
Fox
to
News be without Sarah Palin.
I'm telling you. The contract was set to, they were going to, They were going to renew the contract on June 1st, and they just decided, no, we're done. The Fox News confirmed that they amicably parted ways with Sarah Palin on June 1st. They said that she is expecting to make occasional guest appearances, but she's no longer on contract with them. They just said, basically, that her relevance had dropped so much that they had no use for her, which is a great way to make that happen, by the way. I love that they give that little dig.
As if she ever had any relevance.
True. True. Lots of good nuggets still coming out of the podcast that President Obama did with Mark Maron on the WTF podcast. It was released earlier this week, and one of the things that the president admitted to is he's gotten kind of bad at basketball.
Oh, yeah.
He said he used to love playing basketball.
Yeah.
He says, I was never great, but I was a good player, but I could play seriously. And he says, these days, quote, I'm like one of these old guys who's running around. The guys I play with are all a lot younger. They sort of pity me and sympathize with me. So he says he doesn't play as much basketball anymore because he doesn't like getting in the way.
Yeah, I saw that. So why doesn't he play with, old people, people his age?
Yeah. See, I play with older people so that I can compete. Me personally.
Yeah.
So that's what he should do is step it up. Start playing with, 70-year-olds. He'll be great. He'll have no problems. That's my advice.
Yeah, he just said, and it is true. We don't see him playing basketball.
That's right. He used to play a lot.
Yeah.
He says he's just in the way now. And the next time you see someone wearing a pair of skinny jeans, you might want to step in and help them. An Australian model spent 4 days in the hospital because her skinny jeans were so tight and so skinny that it cut off the blood supply from her calf muscles and caused her to collapse.
Oh, God. Really?
Yes, this is a true story. This is a true story. The woman tried on the jeans. She actually needed some help getting them on. They were so tight, but that's the look that she was going for. but it was way too tight, cut off circulation in her legs, and she couldn't stand, so she had to go get help. They had to cut the jeans away from her legs. That's the only way. They couldn't get the jeans off of the poor woman.
Yeah.
They had to cut them off. So
Beauty is pain.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
You know, you got to suffer sometimes to look good. This is why I'm not wearing
It's not a
skinny
look
jeans.
that appeals to me.
This is the one and only reason.
Oh, is that why?
I was going to wear them, but this has scared me.
Unbelievably, men are wearing skinny
No, I'm going
jeans.
back
It is
to-
a travesty.
I'm going back to wearing my yoga pants. No more skinny jeans. I'm good.
All right. 14 minutes after the hour. So, Alli McCracken, I didn't want to give the impression that you are always like in the office behind the desk at CODEPINK. Not at all. I mean, you're out there alongside of Medea almost, or replacing Medea at some events as well. But so you came to our attention last week. That's why we wanted to talk to you. In the House Armed Services Committee, right?
Right.
Ashton Carter, the new Defense Secretary, was testifying. What happened?
Well, Ashton Carter was testifying in front of the committee about national security threats facing the United States today. And I was there with my subversive CODEPINK colleagues to listen to the hearing. But I was disturbed hearing him talk about ISIL as one of the top security threats to the United States, and listening to not only Ashton Carter, but all the Congress people saying, there is no military solution, but at the same time only providing military solutions and increased U.S. Military intervention in the Middle East region. So I stood up with a sign that said humanitarian aid, not military advisors to Iraq, and I spoke out. And I was carried out of the hearing and arrested by Capitol Hill Police simply for speaking out loud.
At the hearing, right?
Yeah.
So what did you say? What did you say? Just recite what was on the banner? You're repeating what was on the banner? Or?
Yeah, and I said, look, it's time for political solutions. The military solutions have dragged us into these endless wars in the Middle East. They've destroyed countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not working. It's totally nuts. It's been a failed policy for over a decade now, and it's time to try something different.
Now, first, I have to ask you this curious question. Medea is so well known. It must be on the Hill because she's been thrown out of so many hearings. And I agree with everything she says. But she has been because they don't allow you to protest or to make any kind of to exercise your freedom of speech. You must be recognized as well as some of your colleagues do from CODEPINK, right? Because you go there often. How do you get into these hearings? Don't they recognize you and say, we're not letting you in again, lady?
Well, as much as they do stifle our free speech, they are, in fact, public hearings, which most people don't know. Granted, we have to get there hours in advance of the
wait
hearings.
in line. People don't realize that sometimes. Yeah.
Right, so we get there very early in the morning.
But they ever stop you and just say, no, not you again?
Well, what they do is, in a very sneaky way, they'll pack the rooms with congressional staffers. So there's only a couple seats left for the public.
Oh, really?
They'll put staffers and interns in there. So sometimes we just get a little spot in the corner. But that's why we get there very, very early. And anyone's welcome to join us at any time. Their schedules for the hearings are up on Senate.gov and House.gov, and we check it out every week and decide what we're going to go to. And we would love company.
Well, how about if they want to know where CODEPINK is operating, they go to where? CODEPINK.org?
Yeah.
And you list there the hearings that are important, or the hearings where you want people to show up?
We typically put it on our Facebook group. We have a CODEPINK DC Facebook group. We send out emails to our list. We're very transparent about everything we do. It's not hard for them to guess where we're coming. I mean, if there's a hearing with Ashton Carter or, back in the day, Chuck Hagel or John Kerry, they expect us, and especially around war and peace issues.
How many times have you been arrested?
Me?
Yes. Is that because you've lost
It's a very
count?
personal question. No. It's not that bad. A few times.
At the Capitol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I've never
been arrested, so I admire you and applaud you for it. And I'm just curious about what do they do? I mean, how long do they keep you? And
well, there's only been one time where I tried to get arrested, which was a symbolic sit-in at the Israeli embassy during the invasion of Gaza last year. But otherwise, it's always, by accident. It's a pain to get arrested. It's annoying. It's an unintended consequence of our actions. But Capitol Hill Police will take us down to the police station, and it takes anywhere between 3
downtown or in the Capitol?
In the Capitol.
Oh,
it's like 10 feet from the Senate Dirksen building.
Yeah,
so they'll load you up in the van and drive you about 10 feet and then unload you.
Oh, I know that building. I didn't realize what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it takes them a very long time to process individuals. And the more people that are with you, the longer it takes.
And they don't take you overnight. They don't keep you overnight.
There are new rules as of 2013 that say if you have more than 5 arrests under your belt, then you're automatically held overnight. So I'm not there yet.
One of these days, you could get there. I have faith in you, Alli.
It could be me.
Yeah, right. But I mean, so I'm going to go back to the issue though that you're focusing on is right,
which is more important.
Right, is military. It seems that every in response to everything that happens, particularly in the Middle East, it's military action is the answer.
Right.
And that's really the message that you're getting out there, trying to get out there.
Right. And I mean, as a 26-year-old who has lived, my whole adult life with the United States at wars, it's really devastating for my generation, to watch our nation's resources completely bled so we can funnel trillions of dollars into these failed wars. And at Code Pink, we're calling for political solutions instead of military solutions. That means cutting off the flow of recruits to ISIS, the flow of money, and the flow of weapons. Many of the weapons are coming from the United States that we're giving to the Iraq army, which is just dropping them and fleeing because they're too afraid to fight. And so we're trying to be realistic about the situation at Code Pink, but realistic in the way that these military endeavors aren't helping anyone anymore.
I'm curious what you said. You kind of moved on, but I want to come back to. You said you basically that you're 26, that your entire life you've known the United States at war.
Right. 9/11 happened when I was in 8th grade. So I was past the age of reason, but since then, we've been at war with one country or another.
War in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq.
And then the undeclared wars on Pakistan and Yemen, and then,
And Libya.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And now we're back at war in Iraq against ISIS.
Right.
Except not a declared war.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, like Pakistan and Yemen, the rise of the use of drone warfare is the new face of warfare.
So why aren't millennials out marching in the streets the way we did in my day against Vietnam?
Well, millennials
What's wrong with you, millennials?
Millennials
we stopped
actively
the war in Vietnam.
Well, we're actively involved in a lot of issues. The people my age care mostly about climate change and see climate change as one of the the biggest national security threat to our country and to our planet. I went to this conference about millennials and U.S. foreign policy at the Cato Institute last week, and it really surprised me. They showed us all these polls, and I learned that millennials statistically view climate change significantly as a bigger threat than global terrorism. And so when you see people my age out in the streets, it's around climate change, it's around weed legalization, gay marriage, those sort of things. There's tons of people my age who are very active in the anti-fracking movement. So we are active, and statistically, as a generation, we're moving towards the left when it comes to U.S. foreign policy. At Code Pink, we're trying really hard to loop young people in and get them excited about ending the wars, but it's hard. It's so pervasive in our world, and it's so normalized.
Right. Alli McCracken here from Code Pink, codepink.org. You hear the causes that Code Pink is working on. Great organization, great leadership with Medea Benjamin and Alli McCracken. You want to join and we'll find out more about what they're up to when we come back at 866-55-PRESS. All good causes all of us should be involved in.
This is the Bill Press Show.
She fell in love. So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow, CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Devoted to political solutions and not military solutions. It is CODEPINK, the organization, and Alli McCracken is their national organizer in studio. We had such a great time in that first segment. We are just about out of time here. But what's your next big project? Just about 30 seconds that you're working on.
Our next big project is we're working towards educating the American public about the ways that we are living off of a military-based economy and how we can switch to a peace economy by engaging locally, buying locally, doing lots of things. If you go to codepink.org/peace economy, we have lots of great resources there. We've got lots of traveling coming up to Cuba, Palestine, other places where we're promoting diplomatic relations with. And we're working on getting military weapons off our streets with a campaign to demilitarize the police. So
all right.
That's
there
it.
you go.
Nice.
What an agenda. That'll keep you busy. Thanks, Alli, for coming in.
Great, thank you.
CODEPINK.org. Check it out.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Right now, big banking, software, pharmaceutical, and tobacco corporations are lobbying governments from 12 countries to negotiate the dirtiest deal you've never heard of. There's a reason you haven't heard of the TPP or Trans-Pacific Partnership. There are some major corporations and government officials that don't want you to know what's in the deal. For one, our food safety standards, environmental protections, and local labor laws could all be threatened under the TPP. We could all be forced to pay significantly more for the medicines we need, and you could be fined or even sent to jail for downloading copyrighted content on the internet. How will they know if you do it? Because your internet service providers could be required to watch your online activity. But that's not the scariest part. The TPP gives corporations the power to sue our government in secret tribunals over any law or regulation they claim affects their expected future profits. Don't believe it? It's already happening. Recently, after our government said an American pharma corporation's drug price-raising patents were not legit, the firm sued Canadian taxpayers for a staggering $500 million. And a U.S. fracking company sued us when the Quebec government put a moratorium on shale gas development to study its impacts. These deals will stop us from making our own common sense laws for fear of lawsuits. Thankfully, not everyone is willing to sign on the dotted line just yet. In fact, most government officials still have no idea what they're even signing on to, for good reason. In the U.S., Democrats and Republicans alike are uniting to oppose a fast-tracking of the TPP, demanding open debates and negotiations instead. Elected officials in Canada and everywhere should be doing this, and it's our job to make sure they start showing some backbone. Here's the deal. Without a strong public outcry, politicians will only hear the concerns of multinational corporations. And once the TPP is signed, it's here forever. There's no expiration date and no separation clause. This dirty deal has been deliberately branded as a free trade agreement. It is anything but free for people like you and me. And it's not really about trade. It could cost us our internet freedom, labor rights, access to affordable medicine, the safety of our food, and protections that keep our water and air clean. Nobody wants to be struck with a backroom deal we don't want and never voted for. Find out more, speak up, and spread the word.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, here we go. It is the Bill Press Show on a Wednesday, June 24. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their very powerful and very articulate, hardworking international president, Leo Jerrold. United Steelworkers, North America's largest industrial union, representing 1.2 active and retired members. You can find out more about their good work at their website, usw.org. I know Leo Jerrold very well, and I know he is not happy today. After fighting very hard with the leaders of every single labor union against the Trans-Pacific Partnership and Fast Track Authority, to see that it looks like the president is going to succeed in getting that Fast Track Authority through the United States Senate today. Also, nobody more disappointed than Congressman Paul Tonko of New York, representing New York's 20th Congressional District, joining us in studio, who has been working with Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro as a whip.
There you go.
In the House against this effort. Congressman, good to see you.
Good to see you. And before we get
Welcome
chatting,
back. Yes.
Happy 10th anniversary. I was informed by the crew.
We are
That's a tremendous track record.
Nobody thought we'd last this long.
Yeah, well, you have, and you've done really well at informing and bringing people to the table to dialogue, which is so critically important.
Well, very kind of you. Thank you. And couldn't do it without the team that we have here.
Absolutely.
And also couldn't do it without all of our team out there across America, who are, we would be here if people didn't tune in every day, right?
That's right.
That's some point.
So congratulations to all of us. Well, since you started off on another tack, then I'm going to start off on another tack and ask you, when are you going to catch these prisoners up in upstate New York?
It's a pretty frightening
this is day
experience
19,
out there. Exactly.
So what do you hear?
It seems as though they've had some good leads in the last couple of days. We're hoping, all of upstate New York is paying very close attention to this because there's fear and intrepidation that they could be in your neighborhood. We hope that it comes to a conclusion very, very soon.
One thing that struck me is that in this area, it is so rural, most of the area, and there's so many little summer camps or cabins where people use for hunting,
exactly seasonal homes.
Right. Lots of places where they can hide out and maybe even get food or clothing or whatever they might need.
Right. The district that houses the Denimora prison is just north of my district. It's a neighboring district, and so there's a lot of talk about this, and there's a lot of reporting about it in the daily media.
But you're right. It's not just, it's a pain to have all these police officers around or whatnot. But this is a real fear. These guys are dangerous.
Absolutely,
dangerous criminals.
Absolutely. And the whole dynamics of the event with one of the prison workers and her husband related to that whole issue, and the fact that they border Canada. As a county, could find them in Canada too. So everyone's is very perplexed about it, and I know that they've got some expert types who are working on this, and a tremendous force of police officers and the like. So let's hope it's done in the very, very near future.
It does look like they're closing in. So let's go back to the trade issue.
Sure.
What about this trade deal was so important to you that you gave up so much time to try to stop it?
Jobs. Absolutely jobs. The number one priority, beyond any, is putting together an agenda that cultivates jobs. Government doesn't grow those jobs, but it certainly can provide a climate. And the climate here is, to address a fair and level playing field. We don't get that with these agreements. What we do get is an unbalanced trade. When people find you're whipping against fast track, sometimes they will leap to the conclusion, well, you're against trade. No, nothing could be farther from the truth. I'm for trade. I want fair trade, not free trade. And I think there's a difference. So a number of people, led by Rosa DeLauro and a few of us that were whipping, were pointing out the injustice of NAFTA, and this is NAFTA on steroids, because we're talking about 40% of the world's economy, and
huge.
And
what do you think the impact will be then on jobs? Obviously, a negative impact, but how so? Jobs going overseas?
Right. I mean, there's a trade deficit that has ballooned, and if we want to talk about dents in the American economy, a trade deficit can provide a great dent into our economy. And so meaningful jobs from the manufacturing sector oftentimes are the sacrifice. I mean, there are ripple effects. There are other forces that come into play after you lose those manufacturing jobs. But, my district is the donor district to the mouth of the Erie Canal. And that Erie Canal developed a necklace of communities dubbed mill towns. And so these manufacturing centers, it's where many of our immigrant ancestors tethered their American dream. And that American dream is about the economic ladders of opportunity, working your fingers to the bones, and giving a better life to your kids and grandkids to follow. And that still continues. That mosaic, that ethnic mosaic continues to grow. And those who have been given the chance as generations out to call America home need to further strengthen that American dream. And we lose that opportunity with stuff like this. You know, when people talked about fast track, perhaps back in President Nixon's time, it might have been about, you know, doing an expeditious, expedited programming of addressing tariffs and trade barriers. But it's gone well beyond that. It's gone well beyond it. You put public policy into these documents, environmental standards, public safety, public health situations, the right to collective bargaining. All of these issues are woven into this. And, you know, we want to make certain that the regs that guide this nation's manufacturers are not weaker in other areas, and that's where the imbalance comes.
Now, I go to the White House every day when I'm in town for the briefings, and I've heard the President say and Press Secretary Josh Earnest say over and over that this is the strongest trade deal that has ever come down the pike, that has got the strongest environmental protections, the strongest worker protections of everything, and it's a good deal for American workers.
Well, it's good to that you can say that, but, you know, the bottom line, big concern here is enforceability. And we can have whatever documentation in these negotiated settlements, but we need to enforce them. And the enforceability track record has been dismal. And you want to make certain that, you know, the
Plus
standards...
you got the record of NAFTA to look at.
Right. And, you know, I have said to so many folks, you know, and Tar Steelworkers and Leo and all of those who lead these wonderful, powerful groups that speak to the rights of jobs for workers, the dignity of work for our American worker, you know, they know that, you know, the situation here is the loss of jobs, American jobs, which is a huge impact to our economy. But after that, the ripple effect is worldwide. And you can end up with standards that dumb down the check, the salary, the paycheck that the person takes home. And you have people working for 56 cents an hour in Vietnam. They have one labor union, and it's government controlled. If you speak out against these unions, oftentimes the impact is you're incarcerated. And so, you know, that is not the sort of social justice, economic justice that this nation should stand for.
What, as a Democrat, was it tough for you to go up against your own president?
Yes, because I like this president. I revere him. I think he's doing a great job. He stopped the bleeding of the recession. He and I are in sync on energy policy, transformation, investment in research, medical and technology-wise. I think he's done a great job in leading us. But on this one, we part company. I just do not believe that the fast track, where we circumvent Congress should be involved. We have the assignment, the responsibility to be involved in commerce situations. I'm on energy and commerce as a committee assignment. Yeah. The power of the purse rests with Congress. And so to circumvent us in such a huge a concept where 40% of the world's economy is being addressed by this agreement is not the best outcome.
You know, the other issue that I have heard so much about is secrecy. And again, we raise it at the briefings, and the White House response is always, "No, anybody who wants to read this document can read it." That's that's nonsense. That this is a secret document.
Well, number one, some of the language is quite peculiar, very technical. You want to get answers to it, but you don't know if that's changing as you're reading it, or if it's been changed and you'll see it in another revision. In a revision that's down the road. Plus, oftentimes it's confidential. So you're sworn to that secrecy, and you can't express the concern for the district that you represent or a broader, a wider audience. And with the fast track, we get very little conversation on the House floor. Limited debate, no robust debate, and you get a thumbs up or thumbs down on the package. So we're going to have to think our way through how we address the Trans-Pacific Partnership as it comes to the floor if this fast track is approved, which people expect will be the case.
Yeah, it looks like it will be in the Senate. No, and then your role, basically, you're just, as you said, you like it all or you don't like it all, nothing in between, no amendments, no nothing, which is, if I were a Republican or a Democrat in Congress, I'd have a problem with,
Well,
I'm more than a potted plant. Let's just hold that right there if we can, Congressman, while we take a quick break and then come back and talk more about some of the other issues with the Trans-Pacific Partnership and Fast Track Authority. Congressman Paul Tonko from New York's 20th Congressional District, here in studio with us. He is more than willing to take your calls or your comments at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes now before the top of the hour. Your colleague and your confrere, I guess we used to say, Jerry Nadler, Congressman Jerry Nadler, will be joining us, Congressman, at the top of the next hour.
Yeah, great. So we're all pleased to be part of that full court press.
Yeah. Back-to-back New Yorkers.
We're in New York state of mind, I guess.
Speaking of New York, can I just make one quick mention on the trade?
Absolutely.
Oftentimes people don't see agriculture as a huge industry in New York, but it is an amazingly important industry. And the ag economy controls how the general economy works in upstate New York. I'm concerned that what happened to manufacturing with this trade outcome with NAFTA will impact agriculture in the same way. And if we end up importing our food that we require, and if we see these inspection rates stay at what they are, I get worried about the economics of that and the public health, public safety elements of that. There is documentation of ag jobs in this country being displaced by NAFTA, where some of the corporations did their vineyards or whatever, in certain locations and then imported their product into the country and at the same time displaced the American worker. So, we could have the same ripple effect upon the ag community. And, you're a Chobani fan, and that's New York-based.
Absolutely.
So, that will...
And also, we've a big affiliate up in Ithaca, New York, which I've been up there a couple of times, and that big agricultural school at the
Cornell.
At Cornell, right?
Yeah.
And just going through that area, I mean, it's huge.
As they say, Ithaca is gorgeous.
Yes, it is. Indeed.
So those gorgeous are great.
One other aspect of this trade deal that I don't think got much attention, and Larry Cohen from the Communication Workers talked about it here on our program, which is these panels, arbitration panels or whatever, or conflict of interest, whatever the panels were.
ISDS, the tribunals.
ISDS, yes. So that a corporation doesn't like the laws or the rules of a country. They say, there are cases like this. Where Philip Morris is right now suing Uruguay and I think Australia because they say, no, we don't like these restrictions on the packaging on our cigarettes. And they can appeal to this panel and override.
Which is stacked with corporate types. It is totally corporate voices. So the track record here is dismal. It's like, I don't like this regulation. It requires more cost in doing business. Get rid of it. And so the standards that people have worked on to protect the environment, to provide for general well-being, dignity and fairness for workers, these could be wiped away.
So at least in theory, right, these corporations, they could undermine the sovereignty of the United States.
You're right.
U.S. laws. They
Absolutely.
could overturn or go around a U.S. law.
And with the long-term track record here on Fast Track, it could cover perhaps 3 presidencies. And so as we move in the course of time here, you could see international banks coming in and saying, get rid of these regulations. What's that going to mean?
Right.
We saw what happened when this president assumed office. We had a huge crisis that didn't have a watchdog in the equation. And the American workers who trusted their portfolios of retirement lost everything for which they ever worked.
Lost their shirt.
So what are we doing here?
Now, speaking of upstate New York and speaking of Ithaca, Helen is on the line from up in Ithaca, New York. Hey, Helen, good to talk to you.
Hi.
Hi. What's your point?
The Congressman, he's not my representative. We actually have a Republican here. But I agree with him that I am totally disgusted with this fast track idea. And I was, when I was speaking to Jamie, I was saying, why don't we refer to it as fascist track? Because, it's like... I don't want to say the name here.
Yeah, got it.
It doesn't stand for Helen. It stands for some guy from Germany. We should not give one person all this authority and take power away from our representatives in Congress.
Okay, all right, Helen, we got that point. A quick comment.
And I agree. It's, you want give and take here. You want negotiations that are open to the public. We are the people's house. I serve in the House of Representatives. Commerce, international commerce, is an important thing. We want to be involved in the trade situation.
The Constitution gives you a role.
Absolutely. It requires us. And this is just circumventing the responsibilities of Congress, and it's wrong. And, earlier we were talking off the air, and it just amazes me what hypocrisy is involved here, because all the criticism of the president, giving him too much control with our health care, and giving him
seizing too much control.
Yes, seizing control, and now we're saying, oh no, we don't need any interaction with the with Congress. Let the executive branch do this all. So where are you on this? And is it about the friends who may like to buy seats in Congress? I don't know what the dynamic is here, but it's not pretty. And I think it's wrong, and I think the American worker is going to take it on the chin.
Well, a battle well fought, Congressman, and I still think we haven't seen the end of this yet. We got.
I hope you're right.
We got a long ways to go here too. Congressman Paul Tonko from New York's 20th Congressional District, the people of New York. are lucky to have you there, Congressman, and we're very grateful you came in this morning. Thank you.
Well, again, happy 10th. And you work for a great guy.
With a great team. All right, we'll be right back. Tell you what the president's up to today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, don't despair. Don't give up. We know hour number 2 is coming to a close here pretty soon, but we got a third hour coming up. You're going to have to wait around to see the third hour on Free Speech TV at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central. But you can watch it live right away, of course, on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. Top of the next hour, Congressman Jerry Nadler from New York, and then we'll jump down to Charleston to talk to Joel Anderson from Buzzfeed, who's been on the ground down there for the last week, and get his latest report. Hour number 3 coming up right away on TawkrTV.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves, should I get back? What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat the threat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Congressman Jerry Nadler from New York coming up at the top of the next hour. President Obama gets a daily briefing with the Vice President today, and then he will be making a big announcement, taking families of people who are being held hostage around the world, giving them a break and taking them off the hook of getting charged for federal crimes if they try to raise money for ransom for members of their families. Then he'll be speaking at the conclusion of the U.S.-China dialogue. And this evening, he'll have a reception at the White House to celebrate LGBT Pride Month. Our briefing with Josh Earnest at 1 o'clock, back with hour number 3.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No American come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governor should come here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities, they got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption, they lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough, they adapt, but only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water. Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Make it a baker's dozen. Bobby Jindal will announce for president today on the Republican side. Candidate number 13, and Chris Christie revealed yesterday that he will announce next week, making it 14. We need a bigger car for all those clowns. Hello, everybody. What do you say? It's the Bill Press Show. This is Wednesday, June 24. Good to see you today. We are here with you coast to coast on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, and also nationwide on Free Speech TV. Great to have you with us from our nation's capital with our team here, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey, hey.
Hey, good morning.
Hello, hello. Jamie Benson's on the news line. On the news line, no. He is on the phones to take your calls.
Standing by.
No, at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job as well. I was just checking this. This is not your cell phone.
That's not my cell phone. Is that yours?
Uh-oh, this is the Congressman's cell phone.
Oh, okay. We'll make a call here.
Congressman Paul Tonko. I think we better do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yes. And Congressman Paul Tonko here was here with us the last hour. We just realized he left his cell phone.
I'll be right back.
In the studio. We got it. And we'll be joined by his colleague, Congressman Jerry Nadler, in just a moment here. But first, just want to say a quick word about Senator Bernie Sanders. You know that Senator Bernie Sanders is, he's doing well in the polls. He came in real close to Hillary Clinton up in New Hampshire. He's getting great crowds around the country as he travels with his message of economic populism. Hillary's still way out in front, but Bernie Sanders is already having an impact in terms of the issues that are being talked about. And you're making a dent and making some progress when you're running for president and the late night comics start making fun of you. Here is a comedian, James Adomian, who's out there today with his Bernie Sanders impression. Pretty good.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
Hello, I'm Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from Vermont, and I'm running for president. Despite the fact that 80% of everyone agrees with me on 90% of everything, the corporate-controlled media says that I can't win because I look like a train conductor with cotton candy hair, and they sound like a bullfrog with the personality of a library card. In short, They say that I'm boring. Well, frankly, that's a whole load of bunk. Come on, I'll show you. Come on.
Anyhow.
Pretty good.
Oh, the next time I see Bernie, I'll never see Bernie again without thinking of him as a train conductor. All right. Anyhow, go Bernie, go. We're all feeling the burn around here. Yes, indeed. Big day coming up in the Supreme Court on, it looks like on Monday, before the end of the month anyhow. They're going to come out with at least two big decisions that we're waiting, one on same-sex marriage and the other on the Affordable Care Act. We wanted to check in with a good friend of the program, Congressman Jerry Nadler. He and I, we've been working together ever since the Crossfire days when he was one of our favorite guests on Crossfire. He joins us on our news line this morning. Hello, Congressman. Good to talk to you.
Good to be here. Good morning.
Thank you. What do you think? So, on the same-sex marriage case, is there any doubt that where the Supreme Court is going to go? What do you think, and what should they be doing?
Well, there's always doubt with the Supreme Court decision, but I'm highly optimistic. I think it would be surprising if they didn't say that recognition of same-sex marriage by every state is mandatory as part of a basic constitutional due process and equal protection. In the Windsor case 2 years ago,
yes,
was outlawed or they declared unconstitutional part of the Defense of Marriage Act that said that marriage for federal purposes is only between a man and a woman, and even if you legally got married in a state that recognized same-sex marriage, the federal government wouldn't recognize it. They declared that unconstitutional. Justice Scalia, in dissenting, said that it was inexorable that the logic of the court's opinion, which he opposed, made inevitable the court's recognition, the court's throwing out of anti-same-sex marriage laws in all the states. And in almost every circuit court decision, the Court of Appeals decision throwing out such laws, they have cited Justice Scalia's dissent and said he was right. And I think the Supreme Court is going to say he was right, that the logic of the Windsor decision mandates this, that you can't deny equal protection to people on a state level and grant it on the federal level, and that they will do the right thing and say that states cannot refuse to recognize same-sex marriages.
So isn't it already the law now as a result of Windsor that states have to recognize those who were married in other states? Is that correct, or am I? Not quite. Not quite. Okay.
There is a doctrine that a state can refuse to recognize the public act. The Constitution says that one state must recognize the public acts of another. But there is a doctrine recognized by the Supreme Court going back 200 years that says that a state can refuse to recognize the public act of another state if it violates that state's public policy. So some states, if they can show that recognizing same-sex marriage would really violate their public policy, could get away with that, unless the court rules, as I think it will, that is a denial of the equal protection clause of the federal Constitution, which is binding in all the states. Key question in the decision coming up shortly.
So if the court rules the way you and I believe that it will and hope that it will, then that marriage equality will be the law of the land nationwide in every single state, correct?
Yes, it will.
Wow, that's huge.
Now, notice it is the law in 37 states. Either by legislative action or by state referendum, or in many cases by court rulings, but it is not in 13 states. And I would point out that in the 37 states that it is the law, no one has seen any negative effects whatsoever.
Yeah, good point. Because we remember the sky is falling, right? All the threats ahead of time about how this was going to destroy traditional marriage, right?
Which never made any sense. The fact that you allow A and D to get married, whereas previously they couldn't, is not going to affect whether C and D have a good marriage or not.
As you point out, you've proven to be the case. The other thing that has also what we have seen, maybe which nobody predicted, is, and New York certainly has benefited from this, the economic benefit of same-sex marriages in states which do allow them has been incredible.
Yes, and that was anticipated because it generates more economic activity. Also, kids, children brought up by same-sex couples now have greater legal certainty and, in many respects, legal abilities, and that helps them. It helps the stability of families, and it helps children. Quite the contrary to the and it is proven to do so. Quite the contrary of the forecast that somehow recognizing same-sex marriage would hurt children.
Congressman Jerry Nadler with us as our guest, representing New York's 10th Congressional District, of course. Congressman, I just have to ask you just a logistic question. Do you know if the court will be making any more announcements before Monday? I know they are going to make some on Monday. Do they have any scheduled for the rest of this week? Do you know?
I don't know. They normally make announcements on Thursday, so I would expect they might.
Maybe tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I'm asking is I have tickets for Monday, and so I'm hoping that at least one of these big cases will come down on Monday. Now, the other case pending is the challenge to the subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. And very, very important for the Affordable Care Act. What's your read, first of all, on the merits of that case and on the direction of the court?
Well, the merits are clear from a legal point of view. If we didn't have such a very conservative Supreme Court, it would be laughable.
They probably never would have taken it, right?
Yeah, everybody was surprised when they did take it. When the theory was first broached that the law made a distinction in whether you could get tax credits, subsidies, depending whether you're on a state or federal exchange, people laughed at it. That was certainly never contemplated in Congress. And this is not a constitutional case. This is a case of the intent of Congress as a matter of statutory interpretation. When we considered it, and I was there, obviously, no one ever suggested this. The people who drafted it in the Senate, they screwed up by having a couple of extra words in one sentence, because when they amalgamated two different drafts from two different committees, they didn't notice the inconsistency. They said they never thought of this. No one did. As a matter of statutory interpretation, you'd normally say that, well, the entire scheme of the law, that people should be able to, that people are mandated to buy insurance, and if they can't afford it, the federal government is going to help them either through the state or the federal exchange, and that if you don't do that, then obviously one of the key goals of the act, that everybody should be insured, would not be attained. And since only it would lead to what's called a death spiral in insurance coverage in some states, it would destroy their markets. It was never contemplated.
Yeah.
So as a matter of statutory interpretation, you don't look at four words and ignore the entire scheme of the bill, and there are plenty of other things in the bill that make no sense if you assume that that's what that the authors did not mean that for the federal exchange to be able to have the tax credit subsidies for people on them.
Right.
Secondly, the theory that that's what they meant, they could. The proponents, the challengers, had to come up with a reason. Why would Congress think of doing this? And the only reason they could come up with was that this was a method of coercion by the state, by the Congress. They're saying you're saying to the state, you'd better set up a state exchange, or else we'll screw up your whole scheme. Well, coercion against states is unconstitutional. So if that was the motive, you'd have to throw out that provision and interpret it the other way anyway. So I am optimistic that we'll get Justice Kennedy's vote, because he's a big opponent of the federal government coercing states, and I think I'm cautiously optimistic that the act will be upheld.
So, do you think it might be 5-4, or even, the Chief Justice surprised us the last time on an ACA decision by minority.
Well, I correctly predicted the last decision, although for all the wrong reasons. So I'll go out on a limb and I'll say I think it may be 6-3.
6-3. Whoa.
Yeah, because I think the Chief Justice may not want to be on the wrong side here.
Yeah. You mentioned Scalia when we were talking about the same-sex marriage case. Also, I think Scalia has actually said something along the lines of what you pointed out, that you have to look at the entire context of a piece of legislation.
Scalia has often said that, but Scalia has said a lot of things which he doesn't carry through. He's much more, I think, result-oriented rather than really looking at the Constitution.
So he doesn't even follow all of his own advice. Is that
well, Scalia, for example, in a 2005 case, ruled or agreed with the ruling. I don't remember if he was the one who wrote the ruling, but he agreed that if you grew marijuana for your own personal use in your own house, that the federal government could arrest you for that because that affected interstate commerce, because if you didn't grow it in your own house, you might buy it, and that might affect interstate commerce. With that broad interpretation of the Interstate Commerce Clause, he nonetheless said that the federal mandate to buy insurance in the Affordable Care Act was not interstate commerce, which is totally inconsistent. So I wouldn't depend on his consistency.
All right. Well, nobody knows the law better than you, Congressman. Good to talk to you again, and thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
And we'll see what happens at the courts. Congressman Jerry Nadler, House Judiciary Committee, been there for a long time. Our guest here on this Wednesday edition of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. If I see dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, coming up on 25 minutes after the hour here. It's Wednesday, June 24. We'll go down to Charleston, South Carolina at the half hour to talk to Joel Anderson from Buzzfeed on the ground in Charleston with a lot going on leading up to the memorial services Friday for the 9 people murdered at the Mother Emanuel Church last week. And, of course, ongoing demonstrations in Columbia, South Carolina. Is he in Charleston or Columbia?
Joel? He's in Charleston.
Charleston, okay. Just up the road.
I know he went to Columbia as well, so I'm pretty sure he's back in Charleston.
We'll get his take on that as well.
Yeah.
Ongoing demonstrations there on the steps of the state capitol to take down the Confederate flag, and the state legislature yesterday in an overwhelming vote voting to take up that issue and debate it and resolve it and hopefully do the right thing before the end of the summer. Meanwhile, on the political front today, things get a little more crowded in the Republican field with the entry officially of Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, Piyush Jindal, as he's known to his family. He will. He joins the field, as we pointed out earlier, with a long way to go. In the latest Fox News poll, he polled at 1%, which was below none of the above. But he's jumping in. He will be number 13. And we have learned that Chris Christie, who is on again, off again, and we weren't really sure, he is determined he's going to announce. He's going to run, and he's going to announce next week he will be number 14.
Do you think he'll do his announcement from the bridge?
Yeah.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Time to put the bridge behind us.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Meanwhile, very interesting news up in New Hampshire. The latest poll is out for in the Republican primary. We saw in the Democratic primary. That was also interesting because Bernie Sanders polled a lot better than people thought. Hillary Clinton leading with 51%, but Bernie coming in second with 41%. In just a couple of weeks, he has catapulted up to within striking distance of Hillary Clinton. On the Republican side, what's most interesting, Jeb Bush leads the pack with, there's so many of them that none of them get a high percentage. But Jeb leads the pack with 14%. Coming in second in New Hampshire, stunning, Donald Trump. 11%. Trump over Huckabee, Santorum, Rick Perry, all those other guys, right? Chris Christie, all those other guys. Donald Trump at 11. So Republicans, to me, this shows there's no way they're going to keep him out of the debates. He is going to be on stage in those debates. It's going to be more fun.
And he's going to be nuclear in those debates.
Oh, my God.
Can you even imagine?
Oh, he will attack everybody on stage.
Yeah, scorched earth.
Yeah, totally. Running down the list there, by the way, to see how they pull out. After Trump is Scott Walker, surprising, at 8%. Marco Rubio at 7%. Then followed by, in this order, Ben Carson, Chris Christie, Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and Carly Fiorina.
I'm forgetting some of these people
each have 4%. I know.
God.
Huckabee and John Kasich, 2%. And then Rick Perry, Rick Santorum, Lindsey Graham, and Bobby Jindal are all down around 1%. What a clown
This
car.
is the Bill Press Show.
They called her Little Sanju. She was born in a village at the foot of the Himalayas, the smallest of 7 brothers and sisters.
My family was very poor. To get by, we raised cows and we made things for tourists out of bamboo. But we were always hungry, and no matter how hard he tried, my father was always in debt. When I was 11, my father told me I had to go to work making carpets. I had to leave with a man who took me to the carpet factory. The broker who took me away got paid, but they never paid my father anything. I made knots from 4 in the morning until 8 at night. There was never a day off. I was always hungry. I cut my fingers while weaving and had to weave with cut fingers. My hands began to look like my grandmother's. I cried every night. I thought the rest of my life would be only this.
It takes 1 million knots to make one 8x10 rug. In the 1990s, 1 million children were enslaved making carpets in South Asia. Then a hero entered the picture. It was you. If you knew how these carpets were made, you would no longer think they were so beautiful. And if you could choose a better rug, your buying power could end child slavery in the rug industry. From that simple idea, Goodweave was born. Here's how it works. To earn the Goodweave label, companies agreed not to employ children. Goodweave makes sure by conducting surprise inspections. When children are found, Goodweave helps them.
2 years ago, a Goodweave inspector named Jonah found me in the factory. When I saw him, I was scared, but Jonah put his arm around me and told me it would be okay. Jonah took me to Hamrogar, a home for rescued carpet kids run by Goodweave. I'm the first person in my family to ever go to school.
Today, thousands of children like Sanju have been educated and rescued by Goodweave. And because you chose the Goodweave label, 3/4 of those million children weaving carpets are now free. And Sanju, with Goodweave's support, she's able to attend her village school and live at home where she belongs. Now that's a beautiful rug that tells a beautiful story. Stand with Sanju. Insist on the Goodweave label.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go now, 33 minutes after the hour, Wednesday, June 24, The Bill Press Show. We are here in our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill. We are there with you nationwide, coast to coast, on your local progressive talk radio station, and nationwide on Free Speech TV. Good to have you with us today. Focus of the country. The last couple of days has just been incredible. After Governor Nikki Haley made her announcement on Monday that she wanted the South Carolina legislature to get rid of to take down the Confederate flag, joined by the totality of the elected political leadership, Republican and Democrat in South Carolina. The reaction across the country has been swift, and it's been pretty strong. Governors in several states saying Confederate flag no longer allowed on the license plates. People even talking about taking down in Mississippi. No, it was in Tennessee, I guess, taking the statue of Jefferson Davis out of the State House. It go on and on and on. And now the focus is on Charleston, where President Obama will travel on Friday to deliver the eulogy at the service in memory of the Reverend Pinckney, the pastor of Mother Emanuel Church, and a state senator from South Carolina. Joel Anderson has been on the ground in Charleston and Columbia for Buzzfeed for the last week or so. Senior national reporter joins us on our news line from North Charleston this morning. Hey, Joel, always good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
What are the plans for Charleston on Friday? It seems like a lot of people descending there for this service. What's underway?
All right. Well, I mean, if under normal circumstances, getting a hotel room here is going to be a problem. But if you haven't done it already, you might be out of luck.
Wow.
And, so people are already sort of flooding into town. And, the expectation of President Obama is going to be here. Obviously, he's going to eulogize Senator Pinckney. And actually, if you're coming into town and you're planning to protest, you probably won't be able to do that. The Charleston City Council last night passed an emergency order which will prohibit people from picketing and protesting within about 300 feet of the funeral services. So if you do that, there's a chance that you could get arrested.
Is there are the services going to be held for all 9 victims? Is there one combined service or individual services?
Well, this one is going to be specifically for Senator Pinckney.
Right.
I'm not sure how the rest of the services are going to break down, but for this one, this is going to be solely for Reverend Senator Pinckney.
Right, and you know that President Obama, of course, will speak about the other victims as well. Will the service be held at Mother Emanuel?
No, it will actually be held right around the corner on the campus of the College of Charleston at their basketball arena, which is where they had a vigil on Friday. And it holds a few thousand people. It's a college basketball gym. So,
yeah.
There's a good chance that might be sold out. Well, not sold out, but it'll be filled,
right?
Too. Because that was Friday, and that was vigil. And, it was still pretty crowded. Like the lower bowl was filled up. But, I'm imagining they'll pack them in a little bit more on Friday.
No, I remember the scenes from that. I wasn't sure what the venue was, but that's the memorial service on Friday. And, it's not just the president coming. There'll be many members of Congress. Speaker Boehner is leading a whole delegation of members of Congress, and there'll be many senators there as well. And I'm sure the South Carolina legislature, that's going to be... Yeah, packed house.
Oh yeah. I mean, like if you're a legislator in South Carolina, you probably need to be there. And then you're going to have so many other people, civil rights activists, national politicians. I mean, it's going to. I mean, you hate to think of it in that way, but it's going to be sort of a place where you can see and be seen.
Yeah. One of the questions I had, Joel, is I grew up in Charleston. I know the area well, and all of this took place right in the heart of downtown. It's not, removed from the downtown area. So considering all the activity that's going to be going on and all the activity that's taken place there in the last week, how's downtown dealing with that? How's that area moving?
It's weird because, I mean, you're going to get caught in traffic. That's happened to me a few times. But I think actually, it hasn't been nearly as bad as you'd expect. I mean, they've closed off the street that runs in front of Emanuel Church.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but even still, people have sort of been able to adjust to that. And basically what's happened is like you have this strip, right? Like a 3-block strip. And if you're from here, you sort of know it's like there's a square at one end, like you know, like where there's like hotels and clubs and everything else, and on the other side is like it's heading towards like the tourist district where the wharf is and everything else. And in between is like this strip right in front of the church, and that's sort of where everybody has been gathering every day. I mean, it'd be fair to call it more like a town square feel. And so they've actually done a really good job of traffic control and sort of, you know, keep it from getting too congested around there. Like, but if you choose to drive down there, you're just plan on, you know, being stuck for a little bit.
Yeah.
And use the bathroom before you go.
What's the mood of the people in? I want to talk about Columbia next, but what's the mood of the people in Charleston? That I'm sure a lot of grief, but maybe a lot of determination to turn the corner here too. What are you picking up?
Yeah, you know, it's weird, right? Because I mean, this is I've covered a lot of bad things over the last couple of years, and I even covered a church shooting a long time ago, about 15 years ago, and like the people here are really resilient, but also this is really weird that people are like really ready to turn the page here. I mean, which does not mean that they're not prepared to properly mourn the dead here, but it's like they're really trying to make a show of unity in town, and whether or not that's authentic. I mean, I'll leave that up for other people to say, but people really are doing their best to show that the city is united and that they're all together in this. And if you hear in speeches and you talk to people over and over again, they try to say, hey, we're not Ferguson, we're not Baltimore. You know, everybody loves each other here, which I say is, you know, ask around and see if that necessarily holds up. But you know, people really do want to put on a really good face for the people that are coming down here. They do not want to come off as if they've been defeated in any way.
Yeah. Now, back in Columbia, you know, 10 days ago, everybody would have said, you're out of your freaking mind if you ever predicted this. But the state legislature voted yesterday 103 to 10 to take up the removal of to discuss taking down the Confederate flag. And the state Senate, of course, followed with just a voice vote. They didn't even take the roll call. I mean, things have moved so fast. Aren't you surprised at how fast they've moved?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Well, I guess I go both ways on this, right? So it's really hard to be on the side of the Confederate flag at this point. Like, it's just not a political opinion that I mean, you can say the same things that you want to say and feel the way you want to feel about the Confederacy without necessarily rallying behind the flag on state ground. And so I think it's sort of become an untenable position to hold, support flying it on the grounds publicly. But, I mean, like, you're right. It has moved very fast. I was at this vigil last Friday, and Senator Graham and Senator Tim Scott were there. And I asked them directly. I said, well, you know, what do you think about this? And Lindsey, you know, Tim Scott said, well, I'm not here to talk about this. There'll be time for that conversation later. And, you know, Senator Graham said, well, this is a state issue, and I don't really want to, you know, interject in that, and I want to lift the chair for it. 2 days later, you know, you can't find that, you know, they are, like, you know, explicitly in favor of taking down the flag. So, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, things have changed really quickly, but I think it's not because they think that flying the Confederate flag is the wrong thing to do. It's because it's become a politically expedient position to hold. Like, you don't want to have to talk about that anymore, especially with the primaries coming up here in a few months.
Right. And now we've seen that it's moved well beyond South Carolina with Mississippi, Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, all these states saying almost any trace of the Confederate flag on license plates or statues or people connected with the Confederacy, you know, boom, gone. Right?
It's so weird. I mean, I'm a Southerner. I'm from Texas, and I've spent a lot of my life South. And it's just so weird, you know, for all the years that these cities and counties and other municipalities have, like, you know, been pledged fealty to the Confederacy for all these years, and like in the span of a couple of days, it only took 9 people dying for people to think this is the right thing to do. Which, I mean, I guess it's good, right? You know, you like to see people progress, but I guess you want to question, you know, why it was now. which took so long.
No, we paid a hell of a price, 9 people, to get that discussion going. Peter?
One last question, Joel, because I know you got to run. You eating all right down there?
Okay, so I went to the place that you recommended, actually, the Hominy Grill last night.
That's a good place, man.
You know what? It occurred to me that I had actually been there before, and it was as good as I remembered it being.
Yeah, it's a good place.
This is not an exaggeration. Charleston is the best food town that I've ever been to in my life.
Hey, amen to that, brother.
I'm telling you.
I mean, I could, starting with Snob, which is one of my favorites, slightly north of Broadway, but you go on and on. Yeah, it's a great food town. Macaulay's.
That's why I need to get out of town, actually.
It is.
I just want to make sure you're getting taken care of, man.
Oh, no, it's great. It's great. But I need to go home.
All right. Well, come see us when you get back in town here, Joel. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Can't wait to do it. Thanks for having me.
Joel Anderson at Buzzfeed. Buzzfeed.com. When we come back, I love your take on this. I mean, we'll just run down some of the things where... starting with Governor Terry McAuliffe in Virginia yesterday saying, we got the Confederate flag on Virginia license plates. We're not going to allow that anymore. And then the governor of Maryland said the same thing. The governor of North Carolina said the same thing. And the governor of Tennessee said the same thing. Yeah, pretty soon you won't see any trace of Confederate flag except in the museum where it belongs. Moving fast. What do you think? 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Indeed, the movement is very, very dramatic in terms of any trace, it seems, of the Confederate flag. Not only the state legislature yesterday, the House in Columbia, South Carolina, voting 103-10 to take up that issue and debate it before the end of the summer. The state Senate doing so by voice vote. Then the governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, saying, nope, we're going to take the little emblem of the Confederacy off license plates. Stop selling Virginia state license plates with that one kind of license plate with the Confederate flag on it. And he was followed immediately by the governors of Maryland, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Down in Tennessee, the head of the legislature has proposed removing a statue of a Confederate general who is also a member of the KKK from the state house. In Kentucky, the Republican nominee for governor, Matt Bevin, has been joined by Mitch McConnell in calling for removing the statue of Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, from the state capitol rotunda in Kentucky. It goes on and on. Several stores, retail outlets, Amazon, eBay, Target, Sears, Walmart, all yesterday said, nope, they're not going to sell any products with a Confederate flag on it anymore. And Valley Forge Flag Company has said they're going to stop manufacturing the Confederate flag.
I can't believe how quickly this is moving. I honestly
and
can't.
Nationwide.
Yeah.
Total nationwide. Victor is up in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. Victor, what do you think?
How you doing? Well,
Hi.
I was calling because I don't want to take nothing from the tragedy that happened in Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
What has been lost in the conversation is the inadequacy about the prison system and how it has been. It demonized black people, give them more time, even convict them for crimes that they did not commit, knowing well that they did not commit that crime. And I'm saying that from personal experience.
Yeah.
I am 34 years old, and me being 34 years old, I have been tried and convicted for 4 charges that I did not do.
Well, Vic, I don't know your particular case, but I just say one thing, and you make a strong point, which, and one of our callers earlier in the program made the same thing, is that it's good, and we all should applaud taking down the Confederate flag. But that should be like maybe this the first step to then addressing seriously some of the inadequacies and problems and disparity, particularly in the way we treat poor people and people of color in this country. Some of the injustices in this country, broader injustices. And when you talk about the disparity in sentencing between white people and people of color, particularly when it comes to nonviolent drug crimes, you are absolutely right on. Very serious. So this were to taking seriously all of those other issues. Victor, appreciate the call, and we'll come back with a quick.
This is a Bill Show.
History as one long struggle, then the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Shot. Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, we've been talking who says things can't change overnight in politics. They can, and fast. Just a week ago, South Carolina Nikki Haley said it was a waste of time to talk about the Confederate flag. Yet 2 days ago, there she was leading the fight and demanding the flag be taken down. Last weekend, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and Scott Walker were all saying they had no opinion about the flag. Leave it up to the people of South Carolina. Now all three of them are on board for taking down the flag. And a month ago, you couldn't find a Republican legislator in the South who would dare criticize the Confederate flag. And now in Mississippi, in Kentucky, they're talking about not only taking down the flag, but get a statue of Confederate leaders. Yes, it's tragic that it took the murders of 9 Charleston churchgoers to bring people to their senses, but still good for those politicians for finally doing the right thing. And good for Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney for leading the parade. That's my parting shot for today, folks. Have a great Wednesday. Come back tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.